don't try to be a $5 million business when you're a $1 million business. Like learning the lessons of running a $1 million company, which is different than a $2 million company. Well, really, it's 5 is different, 10 is different, 30 is different, 50 was different. So and then after the 50, then it's more around personnel. But there's
Hi, I'm Zane Myers, and this is the Trustcast Show, where we interview leaders in business, health, law, and finance. Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Trustcast Show, and we're really pleased to have with us John Fairclough. And did I pronounce that right, John?
John Fairclough, yes.
And John is the CEO of Resicom. And did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes, you did.
Okay. And Resicom is a group, and this is a facility construction and maintenance group, and usually outside of the realm of the people that we generally talk to, but I thought it was interesting anyway, and your story is interesting, and your company is interesting. So I had on here, or I saw on your site, it said fourth generation company. Can you... some of the research that we did is goes back and forth, so I want to find out a little bit more about your story,
Sure.
background.
Okay, so fourth generation tradesman, but not fourth generation business. I started the company.
Okay, that clears that up, because that's what I had the question. So, because one of the things that I thought was kind of interesting in the research that we did, I don't know if it's what you sent us or what, because I asked for kind of a profile, or the research that we did, it said something about being a homeless teen.
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
Sure. I lived in a car for a bit right before I went to college. So 6 months I lived in a car, and then I enrolled in university. So I had a place to stay, and then I went there for a year. The next year I transferred to another school for a month, and then I couldn't afford to live, so I came back home and went to work. So
tell me about you went to work, and what was going to work like? What was it? What does that mean?
Well, so I had to
do a
change.
little bit of tracing here.
Sure. So I had to. So what had happened was, after I graduated high school, I moved to Florida to live with my cousin, and I stayed there for a short minute, and then I came back because I actually went to real estate school when I was out there. And so I went to real estate school and took the test and all of that, and it just wasn't for me to live in Florida. So I moved back, and when I came back, the place where I was staying, I wasn't able to stay at anymore, and I didn't know that. So that was kind of unexpected. So I had to go find a way to work and get through that. And so that's when I ended up living in a car, and I did that for 6 months. And then I enrolled in school, and I sold the car, enrolled in school, and lived at school for that period of time, for the year. And then the next year, that school was way too expensive for me. I took out a bunch of student loans and things, but it was close to where I lived, and then to where I had grown up. And then went to another school for a short minute, and moved back home. Stopped, and I lived with a bunch of different people just to get restarted with my life. So my plan was to come back, go to school, build that future, but instead I came back. I had no place to live. I had to pivot and get a roof over my head and find a way to eat, and then going to school was the simplest path for that.
And so after the school didn't work out, then what did you do? What was your career path that you took after that, or just going out and getting a job? Or
so when I first came back, I went out and just got a job so that I had a steady job to go to. Then I started working for different uncles that owned painting companies. So I worked for them for a bit and bounced around there, and finally landed with my uncle, who really introduced me to the business, the painting business, which he had been in, and his uncles had been in, or my great uncles had been in, my grandfather, my great grandfather, all of them were in the trades, and so bouncing around, going to those types of jobs, and I finally landed with my uncle that had a stable business, and with that stable business, I worked hard and helped him grow the heck out of that, and a couple of years later, I went on my own.
So just to put this in context for our audience, you do facility work all across the United States in every state. And how many employees do you have?
So we have 100 and some odd people here in the U.S. We've got another 30 people in the Philippines, and then we have thousands of contractors that we hire each month in their local markets.
And how many facilities do you are you responsible for the maintenance on? Is that your primary business, or is it the construction side of things your primary business?
Those two businesses are together. They're and we do we're on 1,000 job sites a day.
Wow.
And it's a whole variety. That's a variety of locations, right? So we fix things that break. And so let's say a toilet backs up. Well, it backs up in one location today, and then tomorrow it's in a different location. And so we primarily work with retailers and other retailers, restaurants, those kinds of businesses. And so the retailer might have 800 locations, and today we're working on 15 different of those locations, and tomorrow might be 30 different ones. And then so it just cycles as to anything that breaks in any of these locations that's part of their fleet.
Okay, so you started as a small painting company, is that right?
I started as a painting and maintenance company. My uncle had a painting company, but I always liked the maintenance side, the service side of something. And so I had that ever since I launched. So it was always painting, maintenance, and remodeling. That was the core set of services I offered when I started.
Okay, so here's the interesting part that I think most people would find interesting, and especially someone who's a younger tradesperson, to go from any one of those fields where you're talking about doing maintenance or doing painting, or and then to go from that to handling thousands of jobs. Something happened in between there, obviously. So how did you go from this young man who is trying to get by in the world and has a painting company and the maintenance company to where you are today? What was the transition that started that? Was there one single account that you got that kind of lit things up and you thought, oh, I can do this. I can make this big?
Well, I always thought that. I've had a bunch of inflection points throughout my career. So when I started, I was 23. When I was 24, so 18 months later, I had 81 people working in the field. So and on top of the office folks. So it was very quickly I was able to go from nothing to something strong, and or at least doing a lot of volume. And in that, I had no money behind me. I had no support there. There was no safety net. And so the difficulty of that moment, the urgency of that moment really helped me develop my skills, because I had to get it right each time. It was my financial life depended on getting it right at each juncture. And so I worked very long hours, long days as I was perfecting how to build a company. But there was no blueprint for me. I just did what I thought was the best move in each of the moments.
So when you start this company, you must be a good salesperson to have gotten these accounts. I mean, I would think a lot of it would be shoe leather. Is that accurate?
I believe the piece for me is that people know that they could trust me. Like my word is good. So, and that's the piece that I think carried me. It wasn't so much. You have to remember, I'm selling trades services. And typically, if we look at a tradesman, they see the expert as being the person that's more seasoned. I'm a young man. I'm a young man who's going out there trying to sell these services. So there were countless times where I did not get the project because someone thought maybe I didn't know what I was doing because I was too young to maybe understand it. And I looked younger than I was on top of that. And so you put those things together, and that was kind of the scenario I was in. Where I was successful was one of my customers. So when I started on my own, I had to get together. I had to sell services, and I found a company that needed my services that was more of a general contractor, and they wanted to do the services in-house, but they just didn't have the know-how. So I did a joint venture with them because they already knew that I was going to make it happen, and I got paid based on the profit. So I proposed the work, even though it was a joint venture. I proposed it, and they got competitive bids, and my bid was good. And then we took that, and I had them finance that project. And then financing that project, we would split the profits. And that was one of the ways, the creative ways that I went about financing work that I didn't have the capital to do. So I found a partner for a project. That joint venture was one way. And I did more and more work with them, and we did well. And then I used my profits there in order to help me finance all of the other work I was doing. So in the meantime, I'm doing that work, and I'm marketing, trying to build up a client base. And I was able to successfully build that client base to where I had other revenue coming in besides just that work. And as I progressed through that, I started working with retailers, and I really liked retailers because the way my mind is, I'm really good at scaling something. I'm good at solving and then implementing, like designing a service to be consistently excellent. That's my strength. And so with the retailer, I was able to really drive that. And that was the next big point. So the first inflection point was to really partner with somebody that had a bunch of work that they needed to get done economically. And I'm good at optimizing and making that happen. And then in the meantime, I was building the business that I was doing just on my own, making that happen. And then I've zeroed in on that ideal fit customer that I knew that I could be successful with.
And is that where most of your business is right now? Is with helping retailers, take care of their facilities?
Right. So two of my companies their primary purpose is to optimize facility maintenance. And so we do that with some of the world's most recognizable brands. So if you walk through the mall, look at the store, typically the healthiest stores there are our clients. We try to be particular, and we want to work for companies that are financially sound. We've been burned on working with companies that are not strong. But some of the best brands we've been partners with for many years. We've got clients that whose relationships are over 20 years long. So we've been able to weather every storm with them. We've got a bunch of clients that we've had pre-2008. So over 20 clients that are pre 2008. So we went through a bunch of different economic cycles with them, and I think it shows our ability to adapt, our ability to find ways to cut costs, to speed up, ramp down, and it's just served us really well, that nimbleness and adaptability.
It's really interesting that you, as a young man, ended up with, you said, how many employees did you have in your first 18 months? That was like 80?
81 people in the field, plus the office staff.
And so how did you, without the kind of experience that, most people spend years developing, how do I manage 81 people and get them to do what they're supposed to do? And how did you do that as a young guy? I mean, how did you figure that out? I think, that's a pretty challenging, bite to take.
Yeah, I wish I knew. I mean, I just figure it out. I put in the effort. I put in the effort. I had been raised in a way where I had to be very resilient. So I went to many schools, bounced around a lot, stopped living with my mom when I was 11. And so I bounced around, and in bouncing around, I picked up, different ways of behaving, of understanding the situation that I'm in, and that I had to find a way to make it happen on my own. So there was a level of adultness I had ever since I was a little boy, and bouncing around and things like that. you develop a different set of skills. So a lot of people look at their upbringing that may have been difficult as being an anchor for them. But for me, it was really something positive. I was surrounded by mental illness, and one of the byproducts of that is you learn how to handle people. And so I was just able to handle situations. And the one piece, and my grandmother really taught us this, was that you tell the truth. She was like a warrior. She was in your corner. You felt strong. And the one thing was, you just don't lie to her. And there's just something about your word being tied to your honor. And I believe that served me really well. In addition to that, I had some great people around me. My brother joined me early on. My sister's husband joined me early on. The first person I ever hired, this young woman, she's still with me today. So like hire number 1, hire number 3, hire number 5, they're all still with me today. And I think that's pretty cool. And some of
How
the
many years is
relationships.
that?
So this is 29 years.
Yeah, that
29
is
years.
pretty cool.
Yeah. And my first retail client is still a client. Right. So it's really cool. Our insurance agent's still the same insurance agent. Our attorney's still our same attorney. And I share this because it's hard to tell people, hey, we do great work, or hey, we're like, when you compliment yourself and that, it sounds like it's a sales pitch. But when we're able to convey, hey, this is our client roster. Here's who we're doing work for. And here's how long we've been doing work with them. And you don't have to be an analyst to look and say, hey, you've been a client they've been a client of yours, for 25 years. So there's something to the way you handle relationships. There's something to you being affordable. There's something to the quality of work you do. And so some of our clients are luxury retailers, the ones that you see just in the most exclusive areas. Well, they don't create a whole lot of revenue. They only have 30, 40 locations that will manage for them. So they're not a driver of our income statement. But if you think about it, that, hey, I can say that I work for these companies, it tells you I do quality work, because that's a quality
Mm-hmm.
brand. And then when I
Mm-hmm.
share a bunch of our other clients that are more kind of big box, where that they're price sensitive, and they want to make sure that they're dotting their I's and crossing their T's on cost controls and things. And you see that group of clients, it conveys affordability. And so if someone's looking to market their business, they can say, hey, we do this and we do that. But if you speak through, here's who our clients are, and there's a diversity there, and there's a professional buyer on the other side, it says that we do great work without me ever saying we do great work. It says that we solve things and can endure any situation just by our longevity. And so I really like using that. And so earlier you had said that I must be good at sales, and it's more like I'm good at putting information in front of people in the right way.
So what you do involves a lot of different people, and it sounds like it would be one of the biggest challenges is to keep your cost in line while keeping your people motivated, providing a good value. Just the balancing act between keeping your cost in line and providing a quality service. How do you manage that?
Thoughtfully, right? So a lot of this is relationship oriented. And so with our vendors, we have a lot of vendors, and we've developed a key vendor program, and there's all kinds of nuances of that. But for our purposes here, let's just say a way to be super effective with your cost controls is to become a great client for your vendors. So I want to be someone's favorite client. Now, what would it take for me to be the favorite client? It would involve the way that I treat them, right? The timeliness of my payments and all of those other things. But if we get down and say that's an entrepreneur on the other end of that who owns that company, and what are they looking for? So when you get down to it, they're looking for some honest feedback, some consistent payments, assistance in growing their company, and like this a bit of grace when things go sideways, and open an open dialogue on things, on how to get better, and kind of giving them a voice in it. And so we work really hard at becoming someone's favorite vendor. Now, we use thousands of vendors a month, right? Thousands of them. And so there's a lot of vendors that don't follow the protocol, or that we use once in a while. And they think they don't understand why we have the protocols in place that we do. They don't know the requirements from the retailer, from the mall. There's security concerns. There's all these different things that go into it. And so they don't always like following the processes. And so they can get disgruntled. But for the people that we work with more often, there's a lot of 10, 20, 25-year relationships there as well. But it comes back to just intentionally trying to be their favorite client.
So I have a kind of a different twist on this. So there's a lot of young tradespeople out there that would love to be in your position, but don't know how to go from being a painter or a plumber or whatever to taking and transforming that into being a much larger entity. What would you tell them?
I would say I'd spend a lot of time thinking about what's the appropriate size for them. So like I'm not an example for them to shoot for, unless you're looking at me and saying, hey, what was John's potential versus what John created? And there's a lot of alignment there. I have the capabilities of running something much larger than what we're already running. But if somebody else, most of the people that are in the trades are not coming with my background, my strengths, or that I'm more of a businessman that ended up in the trades than a tradesman that ended up in business. And so I would say to anybody that's out there, the best advice I can give you is to be yourself, and don't try to be a $5 million business when you're a $1 million business. Like learn the lessons of running a $1 million company, which is different than a $2 million company. Well, really, it's 5 is different, 10 is different, 30 is different, 50 was different. So and then after the 50, then it's more around personnel. But there's these pieces along the way that you learn the lessons, and a lot of entrepreneurs try to skip stuff, and they want to say, hey, I want to end up where you're at, but man, there's a big toll to pay, and if you're not ready to pay that toll, like, why would you aspire towards it? So it's like people that manifest. Be careful what you're manifesting, right? Make sure that it's rooted in something that's well-rounded for you, that's going to make you have a more peaceful life, not just that you have more money in the bank. If you're not peaceful, you probably don't end up with more money in the bank anyway.
So I looked at some of your YouTubes, and the one you just did talked about boundaries around who has access, that was one of the topics. How
Sure.
do you do that? So when you got to a certain stage, you were talking about how, and I thought you have some really good videos on there, really good information. So you were talking about how that it became an extreme time drain, or you were always working even when you're at home and around your family, and you say that now that has changed to some degree. Can you talk about the idea of boundaries, about who has access and your time and your family and all that? That's a pretty big subject, but
Sure. Well, I stopped bringing the work home like that 20 years ago. So I was in my early 30s when I stopped it even before that, but it really very little time for me. Like when I'm at home, very, very infrequently am I on the phone with work. Very infrequently. It does happen, but it's very infrequent. If you have so what most entrepreneurs do, I think that there's this rot in the world. That society tells us lies. And right now, there's this whole grind movement, and everybody's encouraging people to grind. And I'm like the anti-grind movement. Now I want you to put in the effort, but get better at your job so that you can leave early and be home with your family. Not let all the distractions into your day so that your day is that much longer and it takes you away from your family. So it's distractions that get in the way. And so I want us to be able to focus more. And so when someone says like the grind is sexy, I think it's an entrepreneur's way of justifying that they have lowered the priority of their family, maybe of their health, maybe of other things. I think that's a real problem. And so I'm more of the, get better at what you're doing. So does the wife think that the grind is sexy? Do the kids think that the grind is sexy? Why does society tell people this? And, entrepreneurs are trying to build a future, and they're trying to maybe emulate what the other person has. And if they're looking at the collection of items they have, okay, you can do that. But what about the piece of the person? And I don't think that we can have a definition of success that isn't centered on us being peaceful, being aligned with who we really are. So I think that's the important part that people miss.
So I see a lot of videos online. There's some people who are really all about the grind, and they have huge followings. I think there's an automotive sales guy who's become really running this big, huge sales company. I think of other influencers who are really become huge, like Alex Hermosi. But I don't ever see anything that they publish about here's how we do this and have a nice family life. And it's all about, well, we're going to be, get out there and we're going to do this. We're going to do 1,000 things. And this is how you become successful. So, how do you combat that? So you're a young person, you're trying to get ahead, and you're thinking, geez, what do I have to do? And then you go online and you see these people, even like Tony Robbins. He doesn't talk about balancing out life. Or there's another guy. There's a bunch of people online. They talk about how you just the grind. You're right, the grind.
Yeah. Well, these are motivational speakers, right? They're motivational speakers. I'm not that. I'm a business builder. If you want to build a business, and I'm not coming from the marketing side. So a lot of these people are marketers, and then they go out there and they get this big following and all of that, and they're able to influence people with their stuff. And I believe if you look at these mantras, another one is winners never quit. Winners never quit. This is a mantra, and then an entrepreneur will take that on and really has it resonate with them, and then they put in the effort, put in the effort, put in the effort. But when you look at people, what they're really not good at is learning how to exit things well. So if you never quit, it means that you hold on to things that are toxic way too long. And if we wanted to say, would your business be more successful if you let go of the toxic relationships within the business faster? I think the answer is going to be yes. And so if you don't learn how to quit relationships, you don't know how to quit processes and other things that are destructive, and maybe it used to work, and that's why you keep it around. It's not really healthy. And so when people take on these mantras as absolutes, which they often do, and use them to justify their behavior, and that's the structure that they lean on, I just think it runs against them. These folks that are motivational speakers, I think you should go follow Tony Robbins if you want to be a motivational speaker. Like, there's a way that he outlines that. But the entrepreneur getting the rah-rah moment only to return back to their business and their life and have the struggles of the wife wanting time and the kids wanting time. Like, people forget it's not a job to take care of your family. You get recharged by being with your family. If you want the entrepreneur to be stronger, encourage him to have time with those that love him or her and that they love in return, because that recharges us. It makes it all worthwhile. But you don't hear a lot of that because you got people just kind of pitching their things. I've been very fortunate. I mean, I've built 8 and 9 figure businesses, and I've done it without any of that nonsense. And so I think what I bring out is a kind of it's more like fresh air. I believe that the way leadership has been approached, it's really around followership. They're trying to get more and more people to follow them. And so there's a manipulation. If I change my behavior so you follow me, I'm actually adjusting what I'm saying to get that certain outcome. For me, I'm more like, no, this is what it is, and the right people will follow, and the right people won't. The people that aren't supposed to be there won't be. And there's that authenticity. People know that if I say it, I mean it. It doesn't mean it's right, but I believe whatever it is that I'm saying, and that's very freeing for me.
So, what do you do now for marketing? This is kind of a shift in the conversation. I'm just kind of curious because it sounds like, you um, do you do a lot of marketing? Do you have a sales team? Do you do that kind of thing? I know that you have your YouTube that you're pretty active on, and you go on podcasts. You're here on. How do you address growth
Sure.
from a marketing standpoint?
Well, so I've been on no social media other than LinkedIn, and then I wrote a book. And so that book comes out in January. So earlier this year in May, I started a YouTube channel reluctantly. I didn't want to, but it was
Mm-hmm.
more like, hey, this will help us launch the book well and all of that. And so we posted a bunch of videos and just did different things to try to get that out there. Um, on October 1st, we had a little over 3,000 subscribers. And we had taken some time off. We posted videos, and we had some stuff that was just kind of out there, whatever. But we really started taking it serious October 1st. Now, from the 30 some odd hundred October 1st, right now we're at like 36,000. I believe we're starting to add 4,000 and 5,000 subscribers a day. I believe that we're going to be at 100,000 subscribers here in a couple of weeks, and I believe we're going to have 1 million subscribers come spring. And so we figure out how to do things, and then we do it, and we stay super consistent with whomever we're targeting. And that obsessiveness around the entrepreneur that's struggling to try to build that future, we want them to have that more peaceful life. That's what we're driving towards. And so it helps other people as well, but we're really trying to help people be themselves. That's like the message, that you are enough, be yourself, and then act deliberately aligned with that. And so that same push is what we've done over on the facility maintenance company side, where we've created personal URLs for the people that we want to do business with. I'm not looking to do business with everybody. I'm looking to do business with people that have a certain set of characteristics. And when I mean I am obsessive about it, like I am absolutely obsessive about it, where we don't even have an internal sales team. We don't even have an internal sales team. We have operational folks that understand how to manage an account, who get involved in that. So we have the people that are more like a door knocking company to make the phone calls specifically the way that we want. And then we have our team bring the info. And that ideal fit for me is somebody that demands results. Like I want a facility director who demands results. If you don't demand results, you're not really looking at the performance. And if you don't look at the performance, then we're more easily replaced, because I'm not this great sales guy that's out there that wants to take you to dinner, take you golfing, and take you on trip. Like that's not me. I'm going to do a great job, and I'm going to go home to my family. You go home to yours, kind of style. So they have to be really determined to get results. The second part is that they crave partnership. If you don't crave partnership, you won't put the effort in building that partnership. And if we want to build something that I can count on and you can count on, it takes that kind of investment. And so that's the second screen. And then the third one is that they want to get continuously better. If someone wants to get continuously better, they want to have a partnership and they demand results, they are the ideal fit for me. They have to balance spending money as well as quality of work. And that's what I optimize. And so instead of having conversations and getting involved in a bunch of RFPs, I look to identify those folks and I go after them. And so like right now we have 40 some odd personal URLs for companies that we're deliberately trying to work with.
So tell me about the personal URLs. Now I'm really curious about that. So how does the personal URL work? So if we go over a little bit over here, is it okay? I'm actually interested in this conversation.
Sure. So a personal URL, I created them under the mindset that says, hey, these guys are getting inundated with sales calls and sales information, mostly emails, ongoing, and they're getting blasted. And so one of the ways that I can show that I'm highly interested in, like that it's not just an e-blast, but I'm highly interested, is to create their own website. And in that website, there's different components. There's a personal video. So it's like literally, hi Zane, and you see that it's live. In other words, there's not cut, editing, pasting. It's not an intro and an outro and whatever. It's like literally me speaking directly to you, someone on the team speaking directly to you,
Mm-hmm.
that says what that is. And then we do research on all of those retailers, and we have their store count, where they're at, all of that. And we've processed so much data that we know what average costs are on things, and we can propose what we see as typically savings that we're able to find in these different parts of the budget. And we have that information on there. And then we have a bunch of videos that support how we do it. So when people say that they save money, they can do it better and cheaper than someone who's doing it for you now. Like, how do you know? You don't know what I'm spending, and you don't know how fast they're getting it completed, and you don't know our quality standards. So these are like things that people tell people to try to convince them. Rather, for us, is we just say, here's the average turnaround time that we're doing on X. This is the average savings that we have for our clients, and we're known in our space, and we know industry norms, and we're able to demonstrate that. And so we share a bunch of info, but we take some of the nuances, the things that are differentiators for us, and share how we do them with them on that URL. And then so once they have that, then there's a bunch of things that are just by the numbers. Here's how long the average manager's been with us. Here's how many sites we do. There's just a bunch of different quality, size, longevity, other things that help you rest assured that you're dealing with a good company. And so all that's just there in the background. And the purpose of that is to give you enough information where you say, let's meet for half an hour. And that's what we're shooting for. And so now to support that there's the outreach to them, phone calls and emails, sending them the link. There's the LinkedIn outreach for that. And then once they engage, we request their data to process it for them. So we own a way of processing that data, and then we can use their data to say, hey, you're at X, we're going to be at X minus, guaranteed. Here's how we got this. Here's how we formulated that, and this is why we can put these savings, in writing on these tickets. And then on this other piece, here's what your average time was, and here's the guarantee for that. And then if we don't do it faster than what we propose, here's the discount that we're going to discount all of that work, by this amount of money. That way, not only are you getting guaranteed savings and guaranteed speed improvement, if we don't hit the guaranteed speed improvement, you get a reduction in cost. And if we don't hit the average cost like we outlined, there's an immediate credit for the difference. So if my proposal on that was $582 is going to be our average, and we come in at $612, I owe you $30 for every ticket that we did. And this is very simple, easy to verify. It's their data. There's no way around it. It just is what it is. And we've never had a situation where we couldn't save somebody a significant amount of money and time. Never had it.
So, it sounds like a lot of work to put together these individual URLs. So you take an account that's that you really would like to help with your services, and then you put together a whole program and put it on a URL with a personalized video that says, "Hey, this is what we can do for you," and on the come. Is that right?
So what we do is we take some preliminary basics and say, hey, you have 812 locations. We typically can save you this amount of money per location per year. Here's some of the ways that we do it. When you say that there's time put into the personal URL, one thing for me is to be highly effective. So I don't like to do things where that they're not scalable. And so the set of questions that I ask of an account before I have them, like how many locations do they have? Where are they located? What kind of finishes do they have within a location? It creates kind of like a grid. And then on that grid, once we understand what they are, it's easy for us to put our multipliers through to determine what we believe will be the minimum amount of savings that we'd be able to generate off of a standard client. And the whole point of doing that is just simply to share an idea of what it is. Now, when we actually propose the work, we're hoping that we can save them a lot more than that. We want it to be even more compelling. But that first step is to get them to take a presentation call. And to do that, there has to be something worthwhile. And that worthwhile can't feel like it's a promise, like an empty promise, because these are professional buyers. That's why I support it with some of the logic and the processes, the things that we do really, really well, and demonstrate that. Now, if they are able to go through that site prior and see that information, say, hey, I want to do this, they see how important it is for me to get the data. And then when my proposal, it's like literally straight off the data, and like, here's what it is, here's what it'll be, and then we even give them a sample of the report that we would give to them on the quarterly basis that shows how that is. And again, it's all their data. So it's a really cool process, but it does not, when you answer the 5 or 6 questions, that gives you the backbone. Those videos that we have for how we handle leaks, how we schedule the work, how we bundle work, those are videos that we're able to use for each of them, because not all of those videos are personalized. Like, this is how we handle a leak. This is how we handle this. Here's how we handle a leak to save our retailers downtime. Here's what we do to ensure that if there's another party that caused the damage, you capture as much money as you can. Right? And we show how we photograph all the damage, how we document how many pieces of clothing were damaged. We shoot videos of it. We're able to do all of those things to ensure that the full loss is captured in writing and verification at the front end, instead of them trying to hunt that stuff down.
And so then you have that whole process systemized, so that when you get a potential new customer, then you have a system to address it using those personal URLs with the pre-made videos
You duplicate the guts, you add the personal video, you make the modifications according to the retailer and what their store count and locations are, and then you present it. Then, now that I have this foundation, as time goes on, and let's say I don't get the response, now my next message to them is, hey, a lot of clients and prospects have been asking us for more information about our key vendor program. We've uploaded a video into your personal URL that shares how we utilize them to increase our scores and lower our costs. And so now I have a vehicle, because it's almost like a portal where I can add more information to that to support them on their journey to saying, hey, I want to have a call with you all.
Yeah, very cool. So, what would you tell your younger self? What would you do differently as a young man?
I think my younger self would say, "What happened to your hair? You should take better care of that." It was great when I was young. Not so much anymore. No, my younger self. There was a lot of time I lost in my younger years around going along to get along. I was very driven to be successful and have the business be successful, and I did it at the sacrifice of myself, not just time and health. Those things are easy. We know that, like, that's the grind, and if someone that's willing to do it, I wouldn't. I would say that they're courageous. It takes a lot of courage to give up your time. And put so much effort into something. So that would be courageous. But what I did was I lost a little bit of myself in like self erasure, in allowing my concerns about the business or fears of losing something to dictate decisions. I should have made some personnel decisions more quickly, but I went along to get along. And so I think my younger self would look at me and say, it took you long enough, but you finally addressed those dragons and stopped going along to get along and lived more, in alignment with my definition of a good man. And
Right.
the more decisions that one makes that aligns with their personal definition of a good person, I believe that the more at peace they're going to be, the happier they're going to be. They're going to plug into every part of their life better. They're a better themselves. They're a better spouse. They're a better parent. They're a better friend. They're better in business. And so I'm starting this one-man revolution of to get 1 million people to create their own personal manifesto and then align their lives to it.
I think that's a good part to. Oh, So let me ask you: do you have a website, or do you marketing the idea of the Million People Manifesto?
Sure. So, well, uh, my personal site's almost done. We're making a bunch of updates to it because we created an assessment for coping identities, and there's just really cool tools that we're putting together. But it's johnfairclough.com for the website, and then the YouTube channel is the John Fairclough, and we're pretty excited about the things that we're putting together there. There's going to be a bunch of updates to our YouTube channel as well, and like I said, it's growing very quickly. Just this morning, from in a 9-hour patch, we grew by 3,200 subscribers, and so
That's
we're, we'll,
amazing.
we'll be getting our first plaque from YouTube pretty soon here.
That's outstanding. Thank you, John. I really appreciate your time. It was quite enjoyable. Thanks so much for tuning in today. If you have a suggestion for a guest for our show, email us at support@trustcastshow.com and we'll get the conversation started.